Great. Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. It's the August 13th Naugatuck River Greenway Steering Committee meeting. I think we'll probably go around the room and do some introductions, see who's here today. So I guess I'll call your names. So Rista Malanka, co-chair, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. Jack, do you want to go next?
Jack Walsh, co-chair from Derby.
Great. And maybe NVCOG, you guys staff can introduce yourselves.
Sure. Aaron Budrus, and I see we have several NVCOG staff here. So Rich Donovan.
Yeah, good morning. Rich Donovan, Transportation Planning Director here.
Drew
Backlick, Director of Municipal Affairs.
Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm an environmental planner with NVCOG.
And Tom.
And Tom Doherty, environmental planner, NVCOG.
Any other NVCOG folks that I can't see? I don't see Mark yet. Mark Nielsen should be joining us at some point.
Great. Cleve,
Cleve Fusenich from Litchfield.
Tony,
Tony Adili, Town of Thomaston.
great. Paul,
Paul Benevich, Watertown engineer.
I see A. Cirillo,
Hi, it's Anthony Ciriello as a on-call consultant to Paul in the town of Watertown.
great. All right, things are moving around on me here, so give me a second. Rob,
Hey everybody, Rob Phillips, the Executive Director at NHCOG.
Amanda,
Hi, Thomaston Greenway Chair.
Chris Roberts, DOT. Oh, maybe we'll come back to Chris, but thank you for joining DOT. James Stewart.
Jim Stewart, Public Works, Naugatuck.
Okay. Things keep moving. Judy.
Good morning.
Is anybody else I missed want to just unmute yourself and introduce yourselves?
Jeremy Lukowski, Watertown DPW.
Thank you.
Hi guys, it's Judy. For some reason, Judy Mancini from Waterbury. I can't seem to get my video to start, so I'm going. Can you see me? No.
You can't see you, but we can hear you. Thanks, Judy.
Okay. All right.
Good morning, Rista. It's Jim Culpo of VHB.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Liaison for DOT local roads.
Great. All right, is that everybody? All right, looks like it is. I think we'll move right into the NVCOG update on the RAISE program. So I turn it over to Aaron and the NVCOG team to give us an update.
So yeah, we're finally seeing some movement on the RAISE project. I think I'll ask Rich Donovan to give the update. I don't see Mark on yet, but Rich, would you mind sort of giving an overview and an update?
Yeah, no, definitely can. So, if everybody remembers back, well, quite a while ago now, we received notice that we were awarded a RAISE grant through the, or what was at the time called RAISE is now the BUILD program through USDOT. And that was going to help us design all of the gap sections, get to final design on everything from East Main Street in Thomaston down to Greenfield and Naugatuck. Unfortunately, after January, that award had been a little bit in question and certainly got delayed, but we're excited to say we've seen a lot of progress. And so we've been working with our field office here in Connecticut to get an agreement put together. That agreement is now complete and sent up to DOT headquarters to hopefully be signed in the next few weeks. So once that is returned to us, we'll be able to actually get started on this. Our selection committee has gone through and made a determination based on the RFQ we put out also many months ago now. And so we'll be notifying firms shortly and beginning negotiations and hopefully getting underway. You know, the date given to us by the field office to put as the start on the agreement was October 1st. So we're very hopeful. Once we get into that, we're going to end up doing a kind of a phased approach, a two-phase approach. So the first phase, what we're calling the base phase, will cover all the project admin, all of the public outreach, the preliminary engineering and NEPA. And so we'll go through and start that work right away. Once we complete NEPA on any one of the sections, we'll have funds then obligated for the design phase, the final design phase. And so we'll get into the real design work at that point, with the goal being to put full final design packages together for all of these sections that are missing along the Greenway. And then, you know, there's some funding already allocated for a few of these through the LOTSIP program that have been in the program forever, just waiting on design dollars. And we'll be working with towns to help identify construction sources or construction funding sources for the remaining sections once design is complete. You know, Aaron, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like me to cover, or if you want to open it up to questions.
No, I don't have anything else to add. Those on the screen are the list of sections that are going to be designed under this project. And basically, we're going to turn that entire section between Thomaston and Naugatuck yellow. So it'll all be completely designed, which is pretty exciting. And as Rich said, you know, we already do have construction funding lined up for some of these sections, but I think it'll put us in a really good position to go find funding for the remaining sections too, and hopefully, you know, work with DOT and other funding partners to, you know, to sort of get this done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we're excited for this to be, you know, one of the first real like downtown to downtown connections along the Greenway. It really opens up a lot of the transportation aspect of it as well as the recreation aspect of it.
See, Mark joined, so I don't know if Mark has anything else to add.
Probably not. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. Yeah, it just slipped my mind, so I joined us a little bit late. But I think Rich probably, you know, I came in at the tail end of his, but you know, he, you know, I'm sure went through where we are, and we're. Did you mention that we're hoping to get this started by October 1st?
I did, yeah.
So that is our target, and yeah, once we get moving,
Yeah,
we'll
really
be pretty
exciting.
fast. Yeah. And the other thing I just will add, and again, I apologize if Rich had mentioned it, but the intent is to focus in on the sections that are ready to go. You know, with the phasing that we have, we need to do some NEPA work for those early action sections. But once we get some NEPA reports done, Federal Highway will obligate the design funds. So, you know, again, we don't have to do complete tasks of one of the phase before we can move on to the design. So we are going to be moving pretty quickly.
Great, thank you. So does anybody have any questions for Mark or Reg or Aaron before we move on? This is super exciting. All right, I don't see any hands raised or any questions. Oh, hi, Kim.
Hi, guys. I came in a few minutes late too, so I apologize. But
You're breaking up a little bit, Kim. You're hard to hear.
wanted to note, so maybe not.
Kim, you're a little hard to hear, so when you get some service, we'll let you jump back in and provide any updates. Okay. Hopefully she comes back and can provide updates or comments. on this or any other project.
Yeah, I'll just point out that the match for the federal grant was, we used several 4 rec trails awards to the 4 towns as the match to the federal grant. So, that was sort of the catalyst to getting this done, and I think a really sort of maybe innovative. I don't know if it's been done before on a project of this size, but being able to leverage that state funding to get the bigger federal grant.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's a model we're hoping we can replicate again, just because it worked out so well this time. Obviously USDOT build program guidance will have a lot to do with that, but if we can keep this type of model working, this would be a great way to make some significant progress pretty quick.
Yeah, and another benefit, as we have our advocacy hats on, this is another benefit of using state funds for the Rec Trails program that's able, to leverage those other federal funds. So that's great.
Yeah, and we're hoping to be able to convince DOT that it's a win-win situation. Because again, federal highway was more than accommodating and saying, oh, great, if you want to use those dollars, there's no problem. We're going to be able to do a tapered match approach where, most federal grants, it's 80-20 all the time. In this case, there may be cases where we're asking for 100% reimbursement from the feds, and other times it's going to be, much more of a state focus with the rec trail. So, and they're willing to do that because they want to do. It's not really innovative, but it's just a different way of leveraging state dollars to do a project.
Yeah.
And
well, thank you guys for being the leaders in that. That's a great project. All right, so I'm going to move on. And if Kim does come back, we can let her jump in wherever she is. She might be interested in the next topic too. So on the agenda, we put on a discussion. It's really more of an open discussion for e-bikes and e-scooters. Just give you a little background of why we thought this was important just to put it on. As you know, I sit on the Connecticut Greenways Council. And at our last meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion on some new legislation on e-bikes and scooters and some conversation about, should we be taking a position? And I just wanted to kind of get a sense from this group, and as you're managing the NRG, what your experiences have been. I definitely believe that the e-bikes provide a lot of benefit. They allow people to ride longer. They provide great transportation alternatives. They reduce some range anxiety for people that may be hesitant to get out on a bike, and keep people active if they're disabled or injured, getting older, any of those things. But there are some, negative experiences people have had on trails. I know that Kim with the state parks, they're looking at some regulations because that's really more of a recreational opportunity. So how does that translate to the work that we're doing in the Naugatuck River Greenway, which is pretty much a multi-use trail, paved. It is part of an alternative transportation path in a lot of our communities. So really, I just wanted to get a sense, and I think Aaron can provide a little bit of more detail with what we have in some of our existing documents. But if anybody has any strong feelings one way or another, if this group can help with some advocacy, or if really you're not seeing anything and this is not a major issue, that's fine too. But I just wanted to open it up, get a sense of where this group is standing. And I don't know, Aaron, if you want to talk a little bit about our current documents.
Sure. So when we published the NRG Trail Design and Management Guide a few years ago, we did have a bit of a discussion about this. I know there were a couple communities that were really opposed to allowing any e-bikes at all on their trail. We talked a lot about the benefits that Rista just went over. And I think another issue that came up is enforcement of, even if you do restrict these things, enforcement's difficult, and it's getting more and more difficult to sort of tell what is and is not an e-bike, or certainly, between the classes of e-bikes, what is a class 3 versus a class 1 when you're out there, unless you're an expert. So, even if they are regulated in some way, I think the enforcement is a really big issue. So in our guide, we sort of go over the pros and cons, talk about proper use and safe use, and I think we leaned a little bit more toward regulating the proper use of e-bikes and the activities themselves rather than the bikes. So safe use and I think we have a recommended 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on the trails, which again, how to enforce that is, I've never seen anybody running radar on any of the trails. So, I don't know how you enforce that necessarily, but giving police and rangers, if you have them, the ability to, have some ability to say, we think you're being unsafe and this is why, and sort of regulate the safe use rather than the equipment itself. So that's what's in there. Again, this guide's a couple years old. E-bikes have changed a lot in those few years. So if it's something that we think we need to revisit and update, that's certainly a possibility. But I'll shut this off now and we can just sort of open it up for a discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Yeah,
I
and
saw something last week, or maybe it was the week before, that I never envisioned. I saw a bicycle delivery service. I don't know if it was DoorDash or one of them, but that would be, I would think, a commercial vehicle. How would we talk about those? In Derby, I think our speed limit was established. I think it was 8 miles per hour. But again, there's no way of really enforcing that. But it was there as a guideline, and I've noticed the bikes are getting bigger too. In fact, I've seen a couple of people riding motorcycles. I mean, real motorcycles, not electric bikes, on there, which is a whole separate issue. But it's definitely changed, and I'm seeing more bikes, which is a good thing. I mean, we wanted that. I mean, it was built with transportation money, but safety is the real concern.
yeah, and just to follow up on that, safety is the big issue because of speed differential. People are out there walking. If you have somebody coming on an e-bike that's going even 20 miles an hour, that's a huge speed differential, and it's a potential for conflicts. We're working on a Safe Streets for All project as well, and as part of that, we're talking to each of the towns, focusing on talking to the police departments to get their sense of what's safety issues in a town. And one of the things that they've have noted is it's just not traditional e-bikes in the classes, but they're easily modifiable. So a class 1 bike that is designed at 15 miles an hour is the top speed, I think it is, but they can modify that to go a lot faster, and they can't tell that the modification has been done. So again, I think if we could rely on people to use these properly, it's not as big of an issue. But if a small percentage of users are modifying them so they can get a much higher speed, that's when we're starting to have some, we might see more concerns.
And I just want to add to that, Mark, I think the speed is definitely the safety concern, and we talk about it in the sense of e-bikes, but I've seen pedal bikes without the electric go just as fast. So I feel like sometimes it's unfair to just regulate the e-bikes when we really should be regulating the speed, because regardless of how it's powered, that if it's going 20 or 25 miles an hour, it's probably unsafe to be on a trail and should probably be a road type of bike.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, and I agree with that, because it's that differentiating speed. We always talk about on the road. Well, it's pedestrians are at risk because they're walking very slow and cars are going very fast. but it's the same kind of analogy on a trail. If you have somebody on a bike that's going, faster than conditions should allow, or the path would allow. Yeah. But again, getting back to Aaron's point, it's just the enforcement, because most of these trails aren't really, patrolled regularly, or, I've gone down and ridden on the Paquonic River Trail in Trumbull and Monroe, and I've never seen anybody really patrolling. I feel like I try to ride safely, and I let people know I'm approaching from behind and everything. But yeah, I can see where it can be a real big issue if somebody's not, showing proper consideration, and for other people on the trail. So I don't know how to, what the answer would be.
Is anyone else experiencing pushback or concerns or anything within your communities that we should be aware of? And
So Rista, this is Kim. So I just hopefully you guys can hear me now. I apologize.
yes.
I'm on my way to the office. I'm in Hartford now, so should be better. I just wanted to chime in that DEP is doing a lot of work and review and focused and thoughtful effort concerning e-bikes. We do have a bit of a different perspective because we have had some interesting scenarios within our camping areas and other areas beyond just multi-use paths. We also, work with a range of trail networks that are natural surface and therefore focus more on the recreational realm. And this crossover is creating some very interesting scenarios. So I will say there are some great dissemination products. I know I sat in on a meeting with the Capital Region Council of Governments that I think came up with a pretty good overview of the current legislation that came out. There's a lot of steps that have been taken to really define what is an e-bike and what are the classifications of e-bikes and what are not e-bikes and what therefore are considered motorcycles, which require registration, which require, the age of use. I think this is, we're squarely within a hybrid situation here. And I completely agree. There are a lot of benefits of e-bikes. We're seeing it from a transportation perspective being very important. Those delivery services are even important. If you see some really urban areas, that becomes important use as well. But how do we work with that? I think we're coming upon the same concerns of enforcement. So first of all, do we have the regulations that make enforceable actions possible? And second of all, how do we, actually have folks on the ground to enforce these items? We all know that multi-use trails are challenging as it is in terms of what are enforceable areas. When you cross a road, that's state police, versus when you are on the trail, that's environmental conservation police. So it's becoming more confounded in terms of a challenge. And I do agree that we're looking at whether speed limits in that sense would be appropriate and enforceable. And if anything, in those scenarios, since many of our multi-use paths do not have speed limits, at least the ones managed by DEP at this time, when there are scenarios where there's an injury or something to that effect, would that support kind of regulation of those scenarios as well? In particular, we're very concerned about ages. In our state parks, we're seeing a lot of very young individuals using e-bikes that are potentially class 3. So therefore, the speeds are much greater. And I know folks may have seen there was an interesting article that came out, I think in the Hartford Current, about increase in injuries that we're seeing. So that's something that we're definitely trying to work with and keep an eye on. That age consideration is an important factor. And again, I keep bringing up the concerns of being able to tell the difference between these types of classifications. The new legislation does put out requirements for manufacturers to be labeling very clearly which classification these equipment are. But the question is, can someone trying to enforce this actually see those labels? And if there is a modification, there has been some law that's been put in place that, you know, modifications are considered illegal, and you can be fined for that. But if you aren't able to see the modification, you know, that once again, you have to be on the equipment to know it's modified. That creates some challenges as well. So yes, this is a very important topic. I think it's exciting from my perspective that we're seeing more use and expanding use of bicycles, and particularly for transportation. And we do want to make sure that we continue to communicate the need for the infrastructure to support more bike and pedestrian access, and, you know, modification or the need to enforce behaviors of drivers as well. I feel like that keeps getting kind of the responsibility keeps being placed on the cyclist, whereas I feel like we have to continue to point out the need for safety, and safety from all perspectives. It's not an increase in bicycles, you know, an increase in e-bikes that are causing bike versus car fatalities. It's also the behavior of the drivers as well. So some of the aspects of this, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. And I think that's really, those are all really important, and recognizing that there's different, you know, campgrounds are different than state parks, and are different than roadways, than multi-use trails, and it's probably not a one size fits all. But, you know, looking at a series of different solutions, and, you know, I think you guys in Deep are doing a great job at trying to address all the issues and what's enforceable and what's not enforceable. And, you know, when we talk about the different classes, I think whether they're modified or not modified, you know, you think about a car, right? You have cars that can go, like Lamborghinis and Mustangs, that can go super fast. Well, they still shouldn't on local roads, right? They still shouldn't. So even if the bike has the potential to go faster, the user still needs to know what's safe and how to operate that vehicle on a trail differently than on a road, and differently, you know, in different places. So let us know if we can be of any assistance in the conversation or advocacy or anything along the way as you continue on that, Kim. Anybody else? Conversation on that?
I might just reiterate the purpose of this committee, and the reason why we did this design and management guide is, you know, as we start connecting pieces of the NRG together and it becomes more of a long distance trail, you know, we do want some consistency in rules and regulations along the way, so that, you know, somebody, you know, crossing the town line isn't suddenly, you know, stopped and given a ticket for riding something that is completely legal on the rest of the trail. So, you know, I think we should just keep this discussion open, and you know, try to figure these things out together as a group rather than individually as municipalities.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay. So let's get into some project updates. I know first on our list is Waterbury Phase 2, the RAISE grant. Is that
me, Judy?
Is that Judy? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. We're plugging along. The design aspect of this has been a little challenging based on some easements that we need and contaminated property. So we're trying to work on that, but everything is moving along on schedule at this point. We were notified by Rich Donovan at the COG, good news, that the legislation with regard to DOT being able to assist with the right of way on Greenway trails has passed. And so we're trying to figure out what that means for us now. We have a meeting with Pam Staccato and her team on Monday. So we're hoping to get some good news and they'll assist with that. So that's been a real challenge, trying to even find, we've gone out to RFP several times on the other component of this project. And we've had a hard time getting people to respond for right-of-way services. So this is good news for us. We're excited and hopefully I'll have some good news for you. My next update. That's about it.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Okay, the Kinneytown NRG Trail.
So some progress to talk about. We do have GEI consultants on board doing the dam removal design for Kinneytown. And they are just sort of wrapping up their data collection. So they've created a base map. They've done a lot of survey work. And yesterday we actually were able to get out with GEI's sub, who's doing the landscape architecture portion of the project, including the trail design. Stimson, they're out of Boston. They had 3 landscape architects come out yesterday and just walk the property, and just sort of get a lay of the land to help them visualize what's possible out there. I know we've thought a lot about it, so we gave them some ideas as well, but really asked them to think outside the box and think of all possibilities. So I think they're going to be developing some alternatives. A lot's going to depend on how the dam removal ends up happening, but I think there's a lot of work that they can do in the meantime to develop alternatives. We're hoping to discuss this with the 2 municipalities first, and then hopefully bring it to a public workshop in probably the late fall or winter to sort of talk to the communities about what they want to see, what makes the most sense to them, what's the least impactful to them, or most impactful, depending on how you look at it. So I was really happy with the questions they were asking yesterday. It was a really good walk. I think we started a really good dialogue about it, and we're hoping to be able to share some stuff with you by the next meeting.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, the Ansonia Trail to Nolan Field. Is there anybody from Ansonia or?
I saw Sheila on a few minutes ago. Oh, there's Sheila.
Are you there, Sheila? Did you want to give an update? Maybe she's not available. We can circle back to that if she jumps in and is available. Unless anybody else had an update on that. All right. So are there any other projects that are happening that anybody wants to provide an update? Tell us what's going on in your town.
Yes, in Watertown, we got the Steel Brook Greenway. We're 100% designed. We're going out to bid in the fall. Our goal is to start construction in the early spring. It's going to go to French Street to the Unico Bridge, a couple mile segment, and we're pretty excited to have it. Also a public service announcement. We have night out on Main Street in Watertown on Saturday night from 6 to 9 if anybody wants to attend. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, Jack, have you noticed with the Derby Shelton Bridge project all done and open, and with the Route 34 project pretty much wrapping up, and they made completed the connection, for the Greenway back up to close to the bridge. I was just wondering if you had any comments about how people are reacting to the new facilities.
I think overall it's been very positive. You know, there've been some critics of the bridge itself, the people who didn't want the bike lanes and whatnot. But I think overall, people have been very enthusiastic about it. I think we're seeing more people come from the apartments in Shelton over, and also more people walking to the Shelton site now too. So
Yeah.
it's been helpful. Also wanted to mention, you know, last time we were talking about the emergency signage project, Aaron, you brought that up. And this was both good news and in a way bad news. You know, the idea was to have a uniform system the entire length of the Greenway. And I didn't realize it, but the city had approved a Boy Scout project, and I believe it was an Eagle Scout project. And they did go in and put markings along the trail, A 1 through 5, B and C 1 through 5. So if anyone has an incident, they would call into 911, I'm told, and just give them the A1, A2, 3, 4, 5. So it really is a great thing to have, but it will be different from that entire system we talked about previously. But overall, question, I think the bridge.
Safety negotiated for you.
I couldn't hear you, Cleve, but yeah, it is a safety thing.
So I have an update. So many of you probably recall we did a routing study several years ago now from the Torrington line through Thomaston. Phase 1 of that was really mostly in Harwington, right to the Litchfield border to Route 8 there. We did receive a rec trails grant. The town received it, but the Northwest Hills Council of Governments will be managing that grant. We finally got all of our contracts in place, and we'll be going out to bid in the next few weeks to do final routing and design plans. So that section from the Torrington-Harwington line all the way to Litchfield will be designed in the next 12 to 18 months. Okay, are there any other updates before we move on?
So, yeah, maybe we should mention the Thomaston Lotsett project. So Thomaston's funding the reconstruction of Elm Street. And as part of that, developing a section of the Naugatuck River Greenway as a side path along Elm Street. Tony, I don't know if you want to sort of talk about it, or if you want me to keep going. I can sort of give a.
I think you're doing a great job. You can keep going.
So, you know, we presented some ideas, or the town presented some ideas to residents probably about a year ago. There's some pushback about losing parking along Elm Street. There was some pushback about, you know, generally, you know, some, you know, pushback that you get on any normal project. So there's been a couple alternatives developed. There's going to be presented tomorrow night in a public meeting at Town Hall at 7 o'clock. So, you know, we're hoping to get sort of the residents behind this idea. You know, I think it would be, you know, it would serve a couple purposes. One is slow down traffic on Elm Street, which has sort of become a cut through to avoid Main Street, and speeds are pretty high on the road. But also, you know, it's a really good opportunity to get a piece of the, even though it's only, I think it's less than a mile, but a really good opportunity to get a piece of the Greenway done as part of a Lotsett project that's going to get done anyway. So, so yeah, we'll be I will be there from NVCOG to sort of talk about the larger vision, and we'll see how it goes.
Thanks, Aaron. All right. Anybody else before we talk about funding? All right. So next up on our list of funding submissions and opportunities, we have a list here: the micro grant, the Deep Rec Trails grant, build. I know if Chris is still on the phone from DOT, or if Kim is still here from Deep, if either of you wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about any of those programs?
I'm here from DOT.
Hey, Chris.
Hey guys. Quick update for microgrants. We ended round 2 for year 2 about a month ago. With another good turnout, especially with NVCOG. We do have limited funds for the round 3 going forward, so stay tuned. We're deciding how we're gonna go forward with funding for round 3, probably something similar to what we did last year, where each COG will get a limited number of awards going forward. But we do know we are getting funded again next year, so hopefully we can continue to have a successful program. I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding microgrants. I can certainly answer some.
Do you know the funding level for next year? Is it the same as this year?
I believe so, but I don't have confirmation yet, but I do know we will have funding. But I will be giving an update soon at the next COG meeting when we have more details. So
great, thank you.
Chris, are there any other funding opportunities that we should be on the lookout for that you think are upcoming?
I know CCGT has been continuing to be opened every year. I know they just closed their last round and awards will be going out soon. So I imagine that will continue as always.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Kim, are you still
I'm here.
Hey, any rec trails grants update?
Yeah, so I think the Greenways Council probably has some of the most up-to-date information, but just so we know, to be completely transparent, people may be aware that the bond commission did meet. I think it was like the first Friday of August. The rec trail bonding was not included in that agenda. So there has been momentum within the agency. So DEP did request that fund, but it was not put on the agenda for the bond commission. What we've decided to do is move ahead with a preemptive round, essentially. So prior to the bond funds being formally allocated, we're going to move forward to open up requests for proposals. This is looking like mid-September. Again, that has to go through all the review and all the efforts. So we're progressing in that direction and anticipate a fall round for rec trails, with the assumption that we keep the rec trail grant round open for 3 months. So it would close, just around the end of the year, probably like December 15th. And decisions would be made in early 2026. So we have lots of time for the bond commission to release those funds in that meantime. This is something that our open space and watershed land acquisition program does. So we're feeling pretty confident in this approach. And we do know that the last budget that passed in June did include $10 million per year for 2026, 2027. So we're hoping to maintain annual round of rec trails for at least the next 3 years. And it will likely double the amount of impact that the program has had. So looking at growth and still looking at this being a major component of funding. It's great to sit on these meetings and see how much this program can support. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot more information coming out when the RFP comes out. We'll put out a press release through DEP, and then within a month, put forward a webinar to overview the round and the process. But it's going to look very much like the last round. We don't anticipate any major changes to application or otherwise.
Great, thanks, Kim. Is there an update on the build that anybody has, or just we have it on here to just be aware of it, that it's It's an opportunity.
In the past few years, the RAISE program had opened around November, early to mid-November. I would anticipate that there's 1 year of funding left in that program authorized by IJA. And so I would imagine probably roughly the same timeline this year. We've seen policy memos from USDOT that are discouraging the award of bicycle and pedestrian focused projects through that program, but still may be worth looking at.
Great, thanks. Are there any other funding sources anybody's aware of? Okay. So events and outreach opportunities. The Connecticut Trail Symposium is planned for this year, October 3rd, 2025. It'll be at the Manchester Community College again. So their call for presentations and posters are due September 1st. I think the Yukon website that is up here on the screen is where all of the information is going to be hosted. Registration will be coming soon. I believe we're going to try to get that open in the next few weeks. And I'll also add that we are planning, along with the Trail Symposium, another film festival. So the details on that will be also coming out about the same time as the registration for the event. And that will also be at Manchester Community College. So it'll be a really great day. And for those of you who weren't able to attend the last film festival, it was really fun. Some great videos about outdoors, walking, hiking, connecting to the environment. It was, I thought, a great event. So hopefully you can all attend both the symposium and the film festival this year. So then I'm just going to kind of open it up. Is there any other event, outreach, business, news, anything else anybody wants to provide an update on that we should all be aware of?
Yeah, if I can, just real quick, it's not directly related to the Greenway, although we're hoping, at some point maybe. But we've been helping the town of Wolcott do a routing study to connect Peterson Park and the Blue Blaze Trail up there to the Scoville Recreation Area, which we hope will eventually be all part of a Mad River Spurs trail that meets up with the Waterbury section. And so we have our last public meeting on the routing piece of that coming up on August 21st, if anyone is interested in seeing what we have to say about it.
Great, thank you. Looking through anybody else, I don't see any hands up. But feel free to unmute yourself if you do. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting. Looks like our next meeting is November 12th. If we want to have another virtual meeting, we can do that. But if you have a location that you'd like us to come see, tour part of the trail, see a section that's either under construction or newly opened, we love to have field trips. So reach out to myself or Aaron or Jack and let us know. And we'll be happy to have a field trip if you have any great ideas or suggestions for that. So with that, do we need a motion to adjourn or can we just adjourn?
Yeah, just adjourn.
Just adjourn. All right, meeting adjourned at 9:50.
Thank
All right,
you, everyone.
thanks.
Everyone.